Alright everyone, welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney 2. So after that harrowing trial experience we had to go through and finally cleared the name of Raymond Bami, we are now doing some new investigations about a certain crime that occurred a couple of months ago. So I hope you all continue to enjoy watching, and let's continue on. Alright guys, and we are back. So we're gonna converse with Miss Green over here, who just recovered recently from her little stabbing incident. Good morning. Hello, I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo from the Empire of Japan. Oh no, was it your knife that... Are you the man who... No, I'm a lawyer. And I'm Susato Mikotoba, pleased to meet you. Oh no, was it your knife then? Are you the one? No, I assure you, I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant. We heard that you'd regained consciousness and wanted to come to give you our best wishes. Best wishes? For me? Thank you. I'm Olive Green. Green. I like it. I'm an artist. Well, no, that's not right, is it? What I mean is, I'm trying to be an artist. Well, what I really mean is, I desperately want to be an artist. But the truth is, I don't have any talent. I know I don't. It's no wonder I was stabbed in the back. I don't think that's related, actually. Gosh, this young woman seems to bend over backwards to put herself down. Seeing as we're here, we should ask her about what happened from her perspective, I suppose. About the incident. To suddenly be struck in the back by a blade as you were walking along the pavement. What a terrible experience you had, Miss Green. It was so cold that day, and the fog was so thick. I couldn't see a thing. That was 4 days ago now, I think. Is that right? Yes, that's right. I'm afraid you've been comatose all that time. But the case has been solved, hasn't it? Well, I've been here in the hospital, I mean? Indeed it has, my dear madam. Spectacularly by none other than I, Herlock Sholmes. Mr. Sholmes? As you well know, it was Mr. Naruhodo's hard work in court that solved the case. Are you yet to hear what happened, Miss Green? Yes, I'm afraid so. A gentleman from the police force is supposed to be coming to fill me in shortly. Oh, I see. Me coming around seems to have made everyone frantically busy. I'm so sorry. I should never regain consciousness. It was selfish of me. What? Oh no! We're also relieved that you're on the mend, Miss Green. Really, we are. With that kind of attitude, maybe her surname should be Blue, not Green. What about yourself? So, you're an artist, are you, Miss Green? Oh no! Oh, I couldn't possibly claim that. I'm a fledgling artist at best. I mean, I'm a student of art, really. At the Thorndike Academy of Fine Arts. Oh my, an Academy of Fine Arts. Great Britain is such a wonderful country. Tell me, Miss Green, do you live hereabouts? Oh no, actually, I don't deserve it, but I have a little flat on Brixton Road. I see. How very interesting. Oh no, is it? Brixton is some top stops away on the... Sorry, it's some top 10 stops away on underground from here. And Thorndike Academy is a mere 3-minute walk from Brixton Town Center. Does that matter, Mr. Sholmes? Perhaps not, but Briar Road is far less salubrious part of town by comparison, dwelt in by those of inferior means. Including the maleficent Mr. Mustache. Inferior means... I suppose Soseki-san does fit the bill. It struck me as somewhat out of the ordinary for a young fine arts student to be walking in such a district. That's all. What's this? She suddenly clammed up. Mr. Sholmes, you should be ashamed of yourself prying into a young maiden's private affairs. Oh dear me, do forgive me. If you don't mind, I'm being discharged shortly, so I need to pack up my things. Oh, yes, of course. We won't keep you. Thank you so much, Miss Green. Ah, we're good on that. Can we Ooh, yes we can. Alright, let's examine this. Look, there's a photograph in this frame here. Oh yes, it's a picture of a young gentleman. He looks to be about the same age as Miss Green, I would say. Perhaps the young woman's special someone, do you think? My, Mr. Naruhodo. I didn't know you had a sense for matters of the heart. Not in the least. I sincerely said the first thing I thought of. Is there a Mr. Narrowfather here? Mr. Narrowfather? Narrowfather now, huh? Well, if you're looking for Mr. Naruhodo, the lawyer, that's me, but... Ah, Mr. Narrowfather, good. This is for you. It's a message from Mr. Saucy Nutmeg. What? Oh, Mr. Natsume sent a message to me. Well, why would a policeman be delivering a message from Mr. Natsume? Exactly. What's going on? What's a Scotland Yard constable doing playing delivery boy at this time in the morning? Ah, what are you waiting for? Let me see that. Oh. Well, this is most unexpected. Is something wrong, Mr. Sholmes? Is something wrong, Mr. Sholmes, he says. Have you not seen this note? No, how could I have? It would seem that London's criminals have no intention of letting the great detective rest. A new case calls. A case of murder, no less. We must depart at once. Murder? Call a cab. Time is of the essence. But the trouble is, we've yet to read Mr. Natsume's note. I was thinking we ought to pay him a visit in his lodgings once we did. That will be entirely convenient. Convenient? What do you mean? It's all here in the note, my dear fellows. The murder we must investigate took place at Mr. Mustache's lodgings. Wait, what? I'll hail a fiacre at once. I hope that's how you pronounce it. It was only yesterday that Saseki-san was in court and we are dispelling doubts about his innocence. And now, the very next day, there's a murder at the man's own address? He may very well be the unluckiest man alive. Or so it seemed to us at the time, but we were soon to discover it was worse than we thought. "21st of February, 7:18 a.m., Mr. Natsume's lodgings, ground floor." Oh my, what the heck? What on earth? Oh my, the gentleman is deceased without question. He's dead. Really? Should we check first? He might just be knocked out. Look, I'm student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Mr. Natsume. Oh, why? Why is this happening? Why to me? I've only just got out of court yesterday. I was finally home after 2 days of misery. And then I wake up the next day to this? No early bird should catch a worm like this. Woeful worm without wiggle. I see you're in high spirits again this morning, Mr. Mustache. Ah! Not the horrible Herlock Sholmes. Shoo! Shove off! Show yourself the door. I never invited you. Mr. Sholmes came here with us. I'm quite sure he'll be able to help you, Mr. Natsume. I am entirely at your disposal, Mr. Mustache. What can I do for you? Here they are already, the busybodies. Ah, Inspector Gregson, what a pleasant surprise. Pleasant, is it? Gives me a heartburn every time I see your face at a crime scene, Sholmes. Ha! I deduce, Inspector, that your heartburn is a result of your excessive consumption of fried food. Good morning, Inspector. This is a crime scene. Don't you go touching anything. Or good morning to you too, Sunshine. Alright, let's start conversing with this guy here. So, Inspector, what was the victim's name? Who was he? Mr. William Shakespeare. He was a lodger here. As you can probably tell, he was an actor. A bit of a dead loss as it happens. Or just dead. Mr. Shakespeare? It was the landlord, Mr. Garadeb, and the other lodger, Mr. Natsume, who found them. The fellow didn't rise at his usual hour, so Garadeb got worried and kicked the door down. But doesn't Mr. Garadeb have a bad leg? Ah, yeah, you're right there. It was that jittery Japanese hunchback over there who actually did the kicking. Really? Soseki-san. The victim was pretty hard up, it seems. He even done some time inside for petty crimes. He had no money, no place to go, and no friends. His only acquaintances were the people in this house. Miserable life and a miserable end to it. So, what exactly is Mr. Natsume still doing here? He's not involved in the investigation, so shouldn't you have sent him away from the crime scene? Well, I'm not saying it's because the fellow looks odd or anything, or that he acts suspicious, but I thought it would be prudent to take a statement from the cohabiter. You nearly said culprit there, didn't you? Oh dear, Mr. Natsume appears to be under suspicion again. It certainly seems that way. He does just come across as such an odd fellow, doesn't he? Poor man. How unfortunate. Anyway, I can't say much until the coroner gets here. But I don't think the fellow's been a goner that long. The body's still warm. Even if the inspector would allow it, I don't think I could bring myself to touch a dead body. Alright, what about Natsume? What a terrible thing to have happened. It's only been 3 days since I was arrested for the incident on the pavement outside. And then, having finally regained my freedom, it starts happening all over again. Endless existence of excruciating experiences. So the victim lived here on the ground floor and your room is just 1 story up, isn't it? Yes, that's right. In a way, we were neighbors, I suppose. So did you know the victim? Were you friends? What's the matter with Soseki-san now? It was an innocent enough question, wasn't it? Why does he seem so shaken by it? Well, I suppose he wasn't a complete stranger. But he didn't... Did he ever invite me to his room? Never! On my honor, I swear it. What an extreme reaction. You're probably wishing you never asked now, aren't you, Mr. Naruhodo? When we found them here, I felt wretched, which is why I sent word asking you to come. Through that inspector over there! Interesting. What's this guy doing? I sometimes don't understand Sholmes, man. Mr. Sholmes, what are you doing? Ha! You need only observe to know it, my dear fellow. Investigating, naturally. There's nothing natural about that pose. Mr. Sholmes, have you made some miraculous discovery? Patience, my dear madam, patience. We've not been here in this room 5 minutes. So far, all I've managed to deduce is what actually happened. My goodness! But isn't that everything we need to know, Mr. Sholmes? Now that you propose the idea, I believe one could indeed see it that way. At the present time, I have managed to draw 2 incontrovertible conclusions. The first, that there was a physical struggle here last night in which the victim fought for his life. Ah! Ah! Mr. Natsume, what's wrong? Is something that Mr. Sholmes had said significantly somehow? Significant. Wow. No, don't mind me. Forget I was here. And my second conclusion is that there was a poison lingering in the air here last night that passed the victim's lips. No, nonsense! Ah. Alright, Mr. Natsume, why are you reacting so extremely to Mr. Sholmes' deductions? No, please, pretend I'm not here. Invisible, ineffable, inscrutable, insignificant. Impossible to ignore. You must tell us everything, Mr. Sholmes, spare no detail. But of course, let the theatrical tragedy before us be unraveled by my great deductions, presented for your pleasure in 2 acts. We've heard some truly astounding great deductions from Mr. Sholmes in the past. No doubt this will be no exception. What miracles will unfold before our eyes this time? So, my dear fellows, for your delight and wonder, let the curtain rise. For Herlock Sholmes, Logic and Reasoning Spectacular, Act 1. Here we go. The game is afoot. Cause of death. Careful observation of the victim reveals to us the events that transpired in this disconsolate room last night. Foam at the mouth of the deceased clearly indicates the use of poison. Next to the victim, we notice a large dining plate which contains, you will observe, one half of a sizable bar of soap. Meaningful, indubitably. Why is this soap set so purposely upon the dish like the victim's last supper, in fact? Yes. Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course, the fork reveals the answer. It appears that the young man's appetite was his undoing. Taking up arms in the form of his cutlery, the victim engaged in a deadly battle for his life. Yet the struggle against his hunger was in vain, for in the end he couldn't resist devouring the slippery feast. But London's foul soap is besmirched by foul poison. Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the contents of the plate. The soap and the lather about the young man's mouth are too perfectly matched to ignore. The cause of death was clearly intoxication due to excessive indigestion of foul soap. Though personally, I have a greater interest in the taste of the foul candle wax, of course. Poison from soap ingestion. That seems so unlikely. Suicide or murder? The cause of death identified, we proceed to Act 2, where we ponder the next question. Was this suicide or murder? The audience will recall that death occurred during the victim's last supper. Did the man dine and die alone? This single teacup suggests the answer. To draw a conclusion on such meager evidence would be foolish, however, certainly. The careful criminal could have absconded with his own cup to cover his tracks. Well, allow me to lift the veil of doubt, my dear fellow. Indeed, what reveals the answer, of course, is the broken lock. Though forced open now at the time of the incident, this door was locked. And the sole key was in the victim's pocket. In other words, when the victim consumed the poison, he must have been alone. Alone with his inferior soap from whence wafted in the inferior scent. And with that acrid aroma lingering in the air, the victim met his end in tragic solitude. We can take comfort only in the fact that his soul was well cleansed on its way to the hereafter. Really? No possible perpetrator present. Thus concludes the final act of Herlock Sholmes' Great Deduction. There's just one thing, Mr. Sholmes. You are disposed to identifying just one thing, aren't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Pray, what concerns you? Well, no matter how hungry he was, do you really think the man would have eaten soap? It is quite apparent that this man had barely a penny to his name. It is a curious thing, but to one so destitute, soap can suddenly appear quite irresistibly appetizing. How extraordinary! In truth, I have tried a little soap myself in the past. Why? You've eaten it, you mean? My dear fellow, it was some time ago now. My postulation was that it would cleanse my gut. And did it? As I writhed in agony on the floor and spilt the contents of my stomach, yes, I believe it did. The experience taught me a valuable lesson. Soap is quite poisonous. It has an unpleasant taste and leads to great discomfort. In summary, I cannot recommend it. Believe me, I wouldn't eat it even if you did. There's something that troubles me as well, actually. Oh? What's that? It's Mr. Natsume. I couldn't help noticing him shuddering and quivering out of the corner of my eye. Yep, that was pretty obvious from the get-go. Almost as if Mr. Sholmes' deductions touched a nerve somehow. Nonsense! Well, that clenched teeth episode didn't last. I think, judging by Mr. Natsume's reaction, the great detective's deductions may need some gentle corrections in order to reach the actual truth. Yes, Mr. Shum's observations and deductions are sometimes a little too sharp. He has a tendency to hit the nail on the side of the head and drive it in at an obtuse angle. When he does that, it falls to us to straighten things out. Alright then, let's see what we can do. Yes, we must pick out the key words in Mr. Shum's quite brilliant deductions. And discreetly exchange them for something that makes a little more sense. If we can do that, I'm sure we'll arrive at what Mr. Shum's meant to say in the first place. In that case, are you ready for the second performance of the day? Once again, my dear fellows, for your continued delight and wonder, let the curtain rise. For Herlock Sholmes' Logic and Reasoning Spectacular, Act 1. That's my turn now. Course correction. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. Careful observation of the victim reveals to us the events that transpired in this disconsolate room last night. Foam at the mouth of the deceased clearly indicates the use of poison. Next to the victim, we notice a large dining plate, which contains, you will observe, 1/2 of a sizable bar of soap. Meaningful? Indubitably. Why is this soap set so purposely upon the dish? Like the victim's last supper, in fact, yes? Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course, the fork reveals the answer. Well, you can't deny that a fork implies the man was eating something or about to eat something. Yes, that's true. If I were to decide to eat some soap, I should prefer to use a fork than attempt it with chopsticks. And of course, only 1/2 of a bar of soap is left on the plate. But might there not be some other explanation? Something material that proves whether or not the man really ate some soap. Alright, let's see. Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course, the fork reveals the answer. Did the victim really eat some soap? Okay, hold on a second. Can we move? There you go. I don't want that in the way. Wait, what? What is that? There's a bar of soap on the floor. Hold on. Hello. Other piece of soap. Look! There's more soap on the floor here. Mr. Shamspeare must really have loved that stuff. Let's not jump to conclusions, Mr. Naruhodo. Look closely at this soap. Do you see that it would fit together perfectly with the half bar on the table? What the? How can that be? I think that they are 2 halves of the same bar that broke apart. And if that's the case, then we probably solved that one already then, right?
Take that!
Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course. The other piece of soap reveals the answer. He looks cool in that new secondary costume. It being the other half of the soap on the table, in short, the victim was not eating soap at all. But it's obvious really, for no depths of hunger could drive any man to attempt to eat soap. Even I, with my unquenchable thirst for practical knowledge, took only a single bite. But that begs the question of how the man was poisoned, because there's no sign of any food on the table. An excellent observation, Mr. Naruhodo, and one that furnishes us with the answer we seek. For London's foul soap is besmirched by foul poison. Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the contents of the plate. Mr. Sholmes is still pushing the soap argument then. Perhaps he's suggesting the man licked the soap rather than ate it. If soap in London is that poisonous, I don't think I want to be washing my hands with it. But there are no signs of any food in this room at all. Of course, food isn't the only thing that passes people's lips, is it? Alright, next one over. Let's see. I'm gonna get this out of the way. There you go. Fork. Teacup. Yes, a Western vessel for the serving of infusions of dry tea leaves. It's a teacup, Naruhodo, as you well know. Stop putting on airs. And it's empty. Ah, so we've already established that the victim wasn't eating soap when he died. However, there's a significant evidence to suggest that he was drinking tea. My thoughts exactly. If that's the case, then I think we have something to present.
Take that!
Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the teacup. Indeed, cups have been a vessel of choice for practicing poisoners over the centuries. And it would appear that this victim drank every last drop. There's no sign of food anywhere in the room. Look at Natsume's eyes. Which leads us to an immutable conclusion. The cause of death was clearly intoxication due to the ingestion of poison contained in this teacup. Poison in the tea. Salt, alright? The cause of death identified, we proceed to Act 2, where we ponder the next question. Was this suicide or murder? The audience will recall the death occurred during the victim's last supper. Did the man dine and die alone? The single teacup suggests the answer. Ah, the Western vessel for infused hot drinks again. It's already featured heavily in our deduction so far. Yes, we can imagine that shortly before his death, Mr. Shamspeare was having a drink of tea. There would be nothing remarkable about that, but what troubles me is Mr. Natsume's reaction when he heard Mr. Shom suggest it. There's more to this deduction than it seems. We must closely examine the scene of the crime again for some more clues. Okay. Hold on. Whoa, what is this? Another teacup. It's a teacup! And it is empty. Given that he's actually holding this one in his hand, we can assume that this is the cup from which Mr. Shamspeare was actually drinking. But if that's the case, this changes everything. Everything we've deduced until now is turned on its head. I have a bad feeling about this. I almost don't want to say it. Yes, I know exactly how you feel. Alright, I guess it's time to present that one too.
Take that!
Did the man dine and die alone? The other teacup suggests the answer. Yes, there were two teacups in this room all along. In other words, this is a strong indication that at the victim's last supper, there was a guest present. At the very least, we can say now with certainty that somebody else was here in this room last night taking tea with the victim. What are you talking about? Utterly, unbelievably, unjustly, unreasonable. To draw a conclusion on such meager evidence would be foolish, however, certainly. In which case, what more can we deduce about this possible guest at the table? Well, allow me to lift the veil of doubt, my dear fellow. Do you mean to say you know who exactly was in this room at the time of the victim's death? Indeed, what reveals the answer, of course, is the broken lock. I'm not sure I like where this deduction is going now. I'm afraid it's too late to go back to the halcyon days of eating too much soap. But the identity of the guest who was in here last night when the victim passed away is something I have a very bad feeling about. Well, you can try to ignore your feelings, but we cannot ignore the truth, Mr. Naruhodo. No, I suppose not. Time to look around again. Okay. Let's get this out of the way again. Pile of books. At first glance, it seems that the only things in this room are the makeshift stage and the costumes. I overlooked these books initially. I wonder what they are. Let's see. The titles read Picture of a Monsieur Lecoq, Canterbury Yearnings, and A Meal for Gabrielle. Oh, I know whose books these are. Wait, I'm sure I've heard those titles before. It could just be an incredible coincidence, but they're the exact same 3 books that Mr. Natsume purchased the other day. What? Yes, on the day of the unfortunate incident when Miss Green was stabbed, Soseki-san had just been to a bookshop and bought them last night. That's right, not last night. And now those 3 titles are here in the room for the victim. Yet Mr. Natsume claims never to have been here before. What does that mean, do you think? I really don't know what to make of it. Pile of familiar books. Alright guys, I'm gonna have to end the video here for today. Thank you all for watching. When we come back, we're gonna conclude this wonderful deduction of ours. Thank you all for watching. Until the next one.